I'm undedicated, and I'm glad you're here. I've been going down the internet rabbit hole, and it's getting weird. I've got some ideas, and I just want to bounce them off you. So tell me if you think what I'm saying is possible. I'm not saying that this is fact, just a possibility. If you like what I'm saying, and you want to hear more of that, go ahead and like, subscribe. You can post in the comments. If you want to say something, please just be polite, respectful. I'm not playing any kind of blame game here. This is just a what if. Thank you for listening ahead of time. My main point right up front here. I think we have a lot of politicians who are in power right now who, in the past, have been blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. I think his list is still floating around, and so there are people that are still using what information he gathered when he was alive to blackmail people present day. I think that because there's so many people that it's impossible to get this revealed because there's too many people that want to protect the secret. They don't care what has to happen as long as their reputation is protected. So I think first off, Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed a rich person at some point who he got some dirt on, and then used that as leverage to be introduced to other people that he knew, and then put them in situations where they would get a massage from an underage girl, not necessarily realizing that it was because they're just like laying down to get a massage, but he'd record it and it was still seen. Uh, I think that once they began to become blackmailed and they were trapped, that then they were offered more blackmail type material to keep them like really stuck in it. So it's like the first time they might get a massage from an underage girl, and then that's bad enough that they could blackmail them. So they get to come back, and then they get them to do something more so that their blackmail is certain. And they have two options. They can either suffer, or Jeffrey Epstein was making it so that at least while they were serving him, he would take them to his private island and they would be comfortable, whatever that means. And the whole idea is to make the island look as innocent as possible, to recruit people, maybe make them think it is a rich club, and that the whole purpose is to like indulge in the rich excess that you can because you are rich, thinking this is a place where I can live out dark fantasies hidden away. But they didn't plan on doing necessarily something illegal, it was just something perverted. But when they get there, it's like a zoo, like a heavy petting zoo. So they were just guilty by association, even though their original intent wouldn't have been to do something so scandalous as like an underage abuse. Maybe they just wanted to do something unconventional or fetish that wasn't necessarily illegal, but they would have preferred secret. So they still find themselves here at what essentially is a sexcapades club, Jeffrey Epstein Island, and they don't realize that there's something even more twisted and darker. And even if they see that, they can somehow separate it as that was somebody else doing that. That's not me. I'm not taking part in that. That's an exception, not the rule. But now that this Jeffrey Epstein stuff is blown up and everybody wants to know about it, being on that list gets you instantly canceled, if not persecuted, prosecuted, and you may not have done something, but if your name is on that list, it's whatever. And there may be pictures, there may be incriminating things that put you there. But in the beginning, the way it happened was that you were tricked into it was like an entrapment because somebody wanted to enlist you in their services to drain your wealth and to get you as a recruitment tool for more. So I do think that there is a big under the people who got dragged into these things. And there is a lot of talk about our current president, whether he's on that list or not. And I would say it's extremely likely that he's on that list, along with so many other people in high profile, high powerful positions, because Jeffrey Epstein was seeking out the highest people that he could find against his resource web. Is it possible that he was working on behalf of a foreign government to to secure that blackmail information and leverage it in some larger way for world events instead of just some sort of personal gain? But is it possible? I haven't done a lot of research on it. So, I mean, since I haven't, I can only say it's possible. But The people who will be associated with it have no other option but to do everything that they can to keep the Epstein files from being public. If that means shutting down the government forever, that's just what they'll have to do. Build up as much financial resources as you can and then escape the country that would prosecute you. Make sure that they have the longest possible delay in being able to get that information. And even then, your name on a list does not necessarily implicate you in a crime. That there's a lot of deception going on with that group to begin with. It's possible that he throws names into the list, right? Jeffrey Epstein threw names in the list just to, in case he was ever discovered, be able to use leverage later. This is a clever person, so that he could have had a plan for if he were caught, what he might do later, how he might blackmail high profile people. I don't know. If you can think it as like a counter, you're talking about people who are being blackmailed at the highest level, the most intricate and detailed plot. I think the only way that we could get that information openly revealed would be if there were literally no penalty to the people involved in it because they're willing to wreck the country in order to keep that secret. Even the information coming up, if a person were just totally free and clear of it, there's still no real motivation for them to do it if they're profiting in the meantime. This is helping someone, this crisis. It's not, I don't think it's to people at a certain financial level and lower. I think it's somewhere in the higher tiers that the benefit is being distributed. But there's a lot of people, big business, that need to compete with each other on an international plane. And in a lot of ways, while I don't like the idea of big business having such a huge control of our lives, we have this kind of power financially, economically, to be able to open and close businesses and have very powerful companies that can afford to have a store close here and there and still be able to reopen new ones and negotiate better prices because they're buying in such bulk. I do think that corporations being powerful is a good thing as long as they still have a sense of public trust and they try to keep their profit margin at what's like a fair level. There are going to be people that are currently involved in trying to make big political shifts in the way our government works, the way that our economy works. And I can't say that I think any of it's good or bad. These people, they are in the scenario where they are also the people who are the abusers in the Epstein files, and now someone else has that list, and they're still pulling the strings with a different agenda. And I'm willing to bet that with blackmail organizations, some people at least were able to reach a level that instead of being purely blackmailed, they were also given initiatives to blackmail some other people. So there's probably even echelons of the blackmailers. Like this person has access to 10 people. This person only has three. You know, he's lower. Maybe this person here has no one, and they're exclusively being blackmailed. They're not even aware of this higher up above them. They just know they're being blackmailed by this person here. You know, so there could be a bunch. There could be blackmailer one, two, three, and then they have a list of people below them. It's almost like a Ponzi scheme of blackmail. And there could also be blackmailers, knowing that they're part of the scheme, that blackmail another blackmailer into telling them about another blackmailed individual too. And that way they create their own sub loops. These are people who got suckered and they're at the highest levels. So these are also people that are used to suck other people. And so just because they've been got on one thing doesn't mean that they're going to stop doing the getting. The unaliving that happens is, I would say, less commonplace because it's a big web and that the secret is supposed to be protected. Even if you are caught for what you have done, there is literally no point in trying to turn the evidence, right? Because the whole point was to avoid the public shame. And by acknowledging you were a member of a huge ring of it for all this time and knew all along is going to infuriate everybody beyond the point of just you being that bad. There's going to be you were that bad, and the whole country is going to hell, and you knew about this and did nothing. So there is a lot right now that I think is going to prevent the Epstein files from coming out. And nobody's going to normalize this kind of abuse, especially in America. So I would say that we are still in for a long battle, and the government shutdown will probably be continuing for as long as it takes until people stop asking about um, the Epstein files. I think that the only way that this ends is if the Epstein file becomes a conversation non-starter and it's acknowledged on all sides. A large number of people have been blackmailed, and that this is what happens. This is the political fallout that happens. That all the laws change, all of the world around you is thrown into people because of people who are blackmailed making the decisions for you. And they're not making the decision for you because they're forced to make decisions they don't want to make to appease masters who have information on them. So it's just a vicious cycle, right? Don't vote for them if they're attached to this. Just put them out of your mind, cut them off from the places that they profit the most to reduce their influence. That's what I can say is if even the names we know so far have only been released because those people were okay to point out. Either it was already known, or they were lower on the echelon, or maybe they were the people that had no idea of who the other blackmailers were. They weren't in the higher echelons. So I don't think that we're going to get a full list until essentially if a person passes away. They'll eventually give us that information. They'll drip it down somehow. If a person gets arrested for something else and they're already in jail, we'll get that information. How it'll drip down. So I don't think we'll ever really get that information until everybody who's on that list has either been like caught for something else, or passed away, or some other situation that made it so that revealing that kind of past. But really, it's likely that we get the list released this way, piece by piece. It turns out that the real reason we can't get information on the Epstein files is because a huge number of our politicians are in them, and they have been blackmailed. That there is a ring that has gotten blackmailers to enlist more blackmailers to make this web huge, so that so many powerful people are involved in this particular web of deceit, lies, and illegality, that untangling it would mean like putting tremendous amounts of people in high profile positions, lawmakers, 600, 700 CEOs and politicians all discovered both sides of the fence, probably more likely to be conservatives than liberal or democratic or that concept, only because of like the wealth distribution and the party of dollars. And there may be some people who didn't do anything wrong, but were simply there, witnessed something, and didn't say anything. If you were at an island and you were surrounded by millionaires and somebody was doing something illegal, when you get back home, are you going to report that to the authorities? That all these other people saw it and they let it happen? That would be huge. It would be tremendous. You should do it. If you're a person observing that, what kind of evidence do you have? Jeffrey Epstein on his island was recording things. You most likely didn't record things while you were there because you didn't want that happen. So he was the sole proprietor, the owner of the blackmail, unless you brought in a camera and recorded someone else doing something too. So, and Jeffrey Epstein obviously got for what he did. So the blackmail on him would be unnecessary at this point, right? What's happening with Maxwell? Obviously, there's something there. If anything happened to her, it would be suspicious. So nothing can happen to her. But she can work out a deal. She can get a different prison, somewhere more comfortable. If you pardoned an offender like that and wouldn't release the files, that would be like, I have information I'm going to tell. I'm going to tell right now. And CNN will talk to me. Anybody will talk to me, and I will tell them today what I know. And I don't care about NDAs or my sentence or whatever. I'm going to say your name. Just that could be a request. That could be something that is like she's saying this privately, and it doesn't look good that someone has their own personal attorney going to look into that for them. To make something clear and above board, you don't send the same person for everything. Because that's just like, that's my guy. That person works for me. That phrase, I serve at the leisure of the president. I remember that after World War II, when they asked the Germans why they did these horrible things, the soldiers said they were just following orders. A different way of saying it, the outcome is the same, but I think the idea is I serve at the leisure of the president is one thing, but that doesn't mean that I have to do the job the way the president wants it done. It just means I only have the job because the president allows me to have the job. I'm going to do the job the right way. If I do the job the wrong way, then I am just holding this job from a person who should have it because they were going to do the right thing, and all I'm going to do with it is what the president wants me to do. And if your mindset is, if I don't do it, somebody else will, and he's trying to only put people in that he can trust. If you aren't one of those people, then he has less people. We have a work shortage crisis because there are people who are not doing it. There are people who are not going into the detriment of themselves. They don't care. I think I've gone on for long enough. Thanks for listening to me. Once again, I'm undedicated, and I appreciate you listening to me rant. If you've watched the video to the end, I'd like to thank you. Also, Bella would like to thank you. It means a lot to me. It's one of my first longer ones. Like, subscribe, post in the comments. For every like and subscriber, Bella will do a trick. Bella, spin. Good girl.